my plan to get my vote cast is, so I'm from Miami-Dade, so I can't vote in Broward. I feel like that's a topic that people should know about, because a lot of people may think that they can vote, especially here at the library. We have a voting center, and if you show up on the last day of voting and you try and vote in Broward, you're not going to be allowed to, especially if you're registered in a different county. And that's something that I learned last year, like registering to vote. And so my plan for this year I'm doing mail-in, and my mom is taking my ballot with hers because she works in downtown Miami. It's just important to have an idea of what you're gonna do, because things come up, there's unexpected things, expected things, and sometimes you may just forget about it. And ultimately, if you get to the last day and realize you don't have the time, or an emergency happens, like you want to be prepared in advance to ultimately know what you're going to do, where you're going to go, how you're going to vote. I think the reason it's so important to have your voice heard is just because everyone has different experiences. Everyone goes through different events in their life, and regardless of who you are, me compared to my brother is different. Me compared to my mom is different. Me compared to my next door neighbor, and although we're relatively close to each other, our life experiences are going to be completely different. And it's just important that you get out there and you can get your voice heard, because your voice is so specific. The person next to you's voice is so specific. And although it's tough to find a candidate that's going to be able to encompass everyone, you ultimately want to choose someone that's going to represent who you think you are, what you believe, and what you stand for. And ultimately just make sure that, rather than as athletes, we don't want to be sitting on the sideline. We want to be in the game. And if you're not voting, you're ultimately on the sideline, and your thoughts, your perspectives, they're not being accounted for. So it's important to make sure you get out there and go vote. I think that's a lot of stuff that kind of gets slips through the cracks ultimately, and a lot of people, it's sad to say, but I feel like a lot of people don't even know what that is, and they're not informed on it. And if you want to see a direct impact in your local level, then those are the type of elections that you have to go and vote in and vote for. And I feel like that's why a lot of people ultimately won't go out and vote for the president, because they feel like their vote doesn't matter and that they're not going to be represented at the highest level. And so it's important to ultimately vote on issues that are local within your community. Like, I know in my own neighborhood back home, shout out Biscayne Park, love my town, they have their own town hall. And you ultimately have elected mayors and officials that are gonna make a difference within that particular community, whether it's issues about the park or Halloween, or something at the simplest level. But ultimately you do want your voice heard, and that progresses through the local community level, regional level, state level, and eventually national level. And so you want to be educated across all platforms when it comes to that. I think voting became important to me personally, definitely at a young age, just because I had people around me, family, friends that were always involved. And, it was something that I was always educated on. And although I couldn't vote, I was very familiar with the process, what it was about. Always watched debates, followed it on the news. And especially this year, I think as well, because of coronavirus, we're all trapped inside, we're all on our phones, televisions, media, and like what the NBA did, and making sure everyone on every team is registered. I think that was definitely like a big push to make sure that people are registered, people understand what they need to do to go and vote. So it's always just had naturally has something that has a lot of noise around it, and I knew that when I turned 18 it was going to be my time, and get educated and make sure that my vote and voice is heard. I think especially now more than ever, like, social media is so tailored towards what they want you to see based on, what you're interested in, what your viewpoints are. And it's very hard, I think, to get like a clean cut at what the facts are. And, even in debates too, you can watch debates, and a lot of times they have the fact checks after to see what was said, if whether it was true or not. And so and it's with anything, whether it's voting, whether it's an article you read online, whether it's a headline you see on Instagram. Like, you got to do your research, and you got to make sure that the news you're getting, the information you're getting, is factual and it's credible, and that where it's coming from, because you could be being fed lies, or propaganda, or just fake news. And ultimately you want to make sure that what you're when you go to vote, the information you have is knowledgeable, educated, and you ultimately are making a fully informed decision. I would just say, think about the effects that, one person can have, whether it's they do vote or they don't vote. And there's definitely a lot of people that think similarly where, it's a lot, I'm overwhelmed, I got more important things, I don't want to vote. There's millions of people that think like that, and ultimately, if all those million people don't go and vote, those are votes that aren't going to get counted, and that's a huge effect. So if one person affects the next, and then one person affects the next, and it just, it continues to grow and grow and grow, and that's just something that you want to make sure that, everyone across all dimensions is heard and, can be represented properly.